This is Fantasy Football Today for CBS Local Sports, hitting you with the risers and fallers through 2 weeks of the NFL preseason. And guys, first up, a new face in a new place. Lions receiver Marvin Jones. He's looked good thus far.
He has looked good, and you want to talk about another riser, that could be Matthew Stafford because he's developing more weapons. A faller could be Golden Tate because Jones may be passing him as that number one guy. Look, they're missing Calvin Johnson. It's a new system, new receiving core, new era for the Detroit Lions. And Marvin Jones, a couple years ago, had a 10-touchdown season, has never been a number one guy. If he is that number one guy, you're going to love him in that round 7 range as a high-end number 3 fantasy receiver.
Another riser is Cleveland Browns tight end Gary Barnidge. A really nice touchdown reception from Robert Griffin III in the team's second preseason game. Dave, have you been impressed what you've seen out of Gary Barnidge?
Absolutely. Lots of targets from RG3, lots of playing time with the starting unit, and he's going to get a lot of single coverage underneath because of all those speedy receivers that the Browns have. So this is a great tight end to target a little bit later in your drafts. Forget about all those stud tight ends early. If you can get them, great. But if not, Gary Barnidge is somebody you can look at round 8 or later.
Now, science dictates, guys, that where there are risers, there must be fallers. And Thomas Rawls, last year a fantastic rookie season for the Seahawks, ended by injury. He has yet to play a game in the preseason coming off that injury. Christian Michael starting to emerge in that backfield. His stock has taken a little bit of a hit.
I think it's a good thing, to be honest with you. I don't really look at him as a faller. I look at him as a guy who's dealing with some bad news. And so the longer or the further he falls, the better off I think the value will be. This is a guy that averaged over 5 yards a carry when he got an opportunity to step in for Marshawn Lynch. This is still the guy that they're pegging as their starting running back. And we know what Seattle's history has been under Pete Carroll. It's run the ball. So the further he falls in your draft, the better off you'll be. But it doesn't mean you should avoid taking Christian Michael. Take Christian Michael with a late-round pick, too, because he is having a rising preseason.
Now, it's essentially the rookie year for Bears receiver Kevin White, injured for all of last year. A lot of excitement surrounding him, but through 2 preseason games, only 2 catches for 9 yards, no touchdowns.
Yeah, and so all these reports about him looking pretty good in practice just hasn't converted over to what we've seen in the preseason games, and maybe eventually it will. But his stock is dropping, especially as we've seen other receivers like the Lions, guys like Sterling Shepard in New York. These are the types of players that fantasy owners are gravitating toward, and Kevin White is just one of those guys that fantasy owners look at and they say, he's just not quite ready. I don't think he's a finished product. This is a guy who should be passed on in drafts.
That was Fantasy Football Today's Risers and Fallers for CBS Local Sports.